Have y'all ever noticed that some people are so smart they can't get out of bed? You know what I'm saying? I meet people all the time, as you know. I don't shy away from talking to people. And sometimes their ideology or their mindset is so out there, and you're thinking, what happened? Well, I do a lot of, as y'all told you, I've told y'all before, a lot of studying, a lot of watching on YouTube things. And have you ever noticed that atheists know more about God than most of us? Why is that? What's happened to our society that we take knowledge, but we can't apply it? You know, I get a big kick out of our politicians, and if y'all have got 6 or 7 hours, I'll be glad to talk about them for that long, but I just look at some of the things that they say and then some of the things that they do. And you're like, what in the world? I give an example. Is you remember the Texas Democrats who flew the coop, got on a private plane and flew to Washington to keep them having to vote for something? Remember that? Well, one of the ladies on there none of them had masks on, and they did have a complimentary protective 12-pack of Bud Light. Yep. But anyway, they was flying up through there. Not one of them had a mask on. And then she says that we ought to have mandatory masks. Now, that's not applying much knowledge. You know, that's kind of, whoop. And poor old Dr. Fauci, I don't know if he knows what day it is. He's about as goofy, because he flip-flops so much on his stuff. You know, he'll say one thing today and another thing tomorrow, and you're like, oh, what? See, we know too much now. And you got to learn how to take that knowledge and apply it to your life. And what we've done over the last, say, 50, 60 years is we've taken the knowledge of God and not applied it. See, God is never changing. His word will always be the same. The Bible says He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. His word will always be there. And there's no time that His word will ever be void. But yet, we look at it, we know right from wrong. About everybody knows most of the 10 Commandments. But how often do we break them? You know, and so I look at it and I'm thinking, whatever happened to good old-fashioned wisdom? Whatever happened to people living a life that honors God? And this morning I wanted to look at Proverbs chapter 8, the last 5 verses there, and look at how you got, I've put up our 2 groups of people. And Solomon writes in this, it says, I'll read it a second, to his sons. Now, it's not his literal sons. If you go back to the beginning, he says, you all are my sons. In other words, again, like I did in 1 John, he's the spiritual leader because he's king. And he was supposed to be the spiritual leader and the protector and the military leader and all that. So he comes along and he starts to give these, wisdom. Of course, you all know the book of Proverbs is known as the book of wisdoms. Wisdom, not wisdoms, but wisdom. And so with that wisdom, he tries to tell people the best way to live. And of course, here again, I've said this before, when you get sick, everybody's a PhD. Everybody's a doctor. If you have something wrong with your car, everybody's a mechanic. You know what I'm saying? If your child acts up, everybody's a Dr. Spock and knows how to treat your children. You know what I'm saying? And so you look at that and you're thinking, okay, let's get back to what God has to say. And Solomon's saying, look, you can get away from a lot of turmoil in your life. You can get away from a lot of problems in your life if you just follow God. Because a lot of times, and I'll talk to it a little bit later, is we self-inflict a lot of our wounds are self-inflicted. I'll tell you a funny story about my dad. This was when I was a child. His best friends, they played baseball and softball together. They went duck hunting. And they'd get out on the boat, little flat boat, whatever they was on. Anyway, his name was Ed. And Ed was he was out there. He's kind of, this crazy guy. kind of reminds me of Don Perry over there, but nevertheless, we won't talk about Don this morning. But he was just, he was always carrying on fools. But anyway, I think I may have told you this, but he saw a duck and got ready to shoot it and shot the hole in the boat. And of course, they had to get the boat back in. This is on the shore. They were sitting there real quiet and everything, Anyway, I'm thinking, okay, Ed, you grew up on guns. What happened? So we don't use good common sense in a lot of stuff. Hey, to follow safety gun rules, may not have shot the boat. Of course, here again, he could have shot the guys in the boat. So, Anyway, let's move on to. He says, now therefore, O sons, listen to me. For blessed are they who keep my ways. Did y'all hear that in the Beatitudes? Blessed are those. Heed instruction and be wise. Do not neglect it. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at my doorpost. For he who finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. But he who sins against me injures himself, and those who hate me love death. You look at this, and he spends 1, 2, 3, 4 verses on doing right. And he spends 1 verse, which is so powerful, on when you do wrong. And I look at this. It's more than I want to look at a couple of things. One of them is I turn this thing back. Okay, there it is. Those who listen to me. Now remember, he says, oh sons. Now when he's talking about the son, he's talking about his spiritual sons. He's talking about his people and how important it is to listen. When somebody says, y'all do this too, I know you do. If you have children, it doesn't work as much with a daughter as it does a son. When you want your child, your boy, your son, you'll say, son, and then you know that his ears perk up like a Doberman. You know what I'm saying? Over a slab of meat. He knows he's in trouble when you use the word son. Now, he knows he's in real trouble when you use his first and middle name. Because when my mom would say my middle name, I knew then it was over for my kind. But he's trying to say something important to these people. When he says, oh, sons, he's making it personal. He's trying to say this is very important. When he says, listen to me. When we give advice to our children, we'll say, listen to me. And then you're like, well, of course, when I was a teenager, my mom or dad would say, listen to me. I'm like, okay. And then I go do what I want to do. But as I'm older and I realize that what they were telling me was from their experience when they were younger. And a lot of things I tell my daughter is from experience, especially when it comes to guys. When she says, oh, this guy, he just wants to be my friend. Ain't no guy wanting to be your friend. He's saying that to try to get on in, to a relationship. You know what I'm saying? No man alive. But you talk about that age. When I was 18 and I said to a girl, yeah, she said, let's be friends. Oh yeah, I'll be your friend. And I'm like, all I was thinking about was non-friendship stuff. Okay, I'm not going into any detail, but I got to get out of this somehow. Y'all help me out. All right, I got into this. Y'all get me out. All right. And so, well, Daddy, how do you know all this? I was a teenager once. I wasn't born 60. I know, I was there. You know what I'm saying? So, Solomon was supposed to be the wisest man in the world. And so he had experience. And David, his son, or his dad, told him all this stuff too from David's experience. And so here he comes in saying, my sons, I can talk from experience. I can talk from where I've been and what I've done. I can talk about this. And he says, listen to me. He says, blessed are those who keep my ways. Now you think about this. Blessed means content, means happy. It means, satisfied. All these words that you can say. Because it doesn't say blessed. It says blessed are those. Of course, here again, when God does not bless sin, you know that, but He blesses righteous living. He blesses what we do right. But He's saying blessed. It's different than saying blessed, because blessed is I'm satisfied. And when I want to keep God's ways, when I do what I understand that I'm content there. Now, I may not get my way always when it comes to this world stuff. I may not get, listen, there's times in our lives when we really need to keep God's ways. And I say that because when you go out into this world, there's some people out there that drives you nuts. I don't care who you are. Well, there's some in here that drives me nuts, but I ain't going that way. I'm not getting in that one either. So, but no, what I'm saying is that you go somewhere like Walmart or drive up Horner Boulevard, and I've talked about this over and over. You go places like that, and you go into a entirely different civilization. And when you go, and people treat you like you're an animal or subhuman. And so we look at this and we're thinking, there are times when people say things to me that I'm thinking, man, if God would take a coffee break, I'd let them have it right now. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, don't tell me y'all sitting out there with your halo over. I said, oh, preacher, I'd never do something like that. You know you would, and you probably have. Amen? Nobody wants to amen to something like that because we do. People can make us angry and just like that. And so, keeping His ways is a challenge. To have a desire to live right for God is a challenge. We say, oh, well, I'm just going to get up today and I'm going to keep God's law and I'm going to do what's right and I'm going to live for Jesus. And then you go off and as soon as you get out the end of the driveway and you turn out into civilization, it's all over. It's all downhill there. That's when the rubber hits the road, and you've got to really gird up your loins and really face this world and all that's in it with a life that wants to please God. Is that making sense to y'all? It's hard. If people say, well, you know, being a Christian is easy. I don't know about you guys, but it ain't easy. It's rewarding. It's blessed. It's a blessing. It's nothing I'd rather do, but it's not easy. Because sometimes Jesus says, hey, turn the other cheek. Turn the other cheek. And sometimes you've got to turn the other cheek. And when you turn the other cheek, you walk away steaming, don't you? Nobody. I'm preaching to the choir this morning over there, Ryan. All these saints, when they get to heaven, they're going, yeah, I know it. No. But you know what I'm saying. It's very difficult to live. But He says, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. You see, we have to learn to walk away from things that are not any good. And we all know what's not good. We're all tempted. The Bible says we're tempted every day. I'm tempted every day to do something. And when I'm tempted, I have a choice to make. I'm either going to do right or do wrong. That's the bottom line. And sometimes doing wrong makes me feel better to the world, but doing right makes me feel better to the Lord, if it makes sense. Because, the problem with all of us, but mainly us guys, is we have pride, and nobody likes to have somebody one up on you. I don't want nobody one up me. I want to one up everybody. In other words, I'm going to get the last word or die. My little brother and my dad, both of them were the same. I mean, if you put them beside each other right here, you'd say, wow. And both of them, neither one of them could ever admit wrong, and neither one of them could ever admit that they were lost in this battle of arguing. I'm talking about when my little brother was like 8 years old. He would sit there and argue about that. And my dad would grit so hard I thought his teeth was coming out. And they'd argue back and forth and everything like that. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm gonna be the youngest child before it's over with. He gonna kill him. Because they both had to be right. We suffer from this. Why do we blow the horn when somebody cuts us off? It ain't because I'm back here and I'm safe now, so you go ahead, it's okay. No, you blow the horn and the next thing comes up is usually a couple of verbiage that you don't want nobody to hear, and sometimes even that one finger on one of your hands comes up and waves at them. You know what I mean? Nobody's out there today, are they? No, bless y'all's heart. Because we can't stand it. We can't stand it. And our pride will not let us say this, okay, I want to humble myself before God. I want to humble myself. It's like this one man said that he was so humble he was proud of it. And so with that, some of y'all get that at lunch. Oh, I got that one. Yeah, that was a good one, Steve. Anyway, but humble means you're putting other people's needs. There's sometimes you don't have to retaliate. You don't have to be one up. You don't have to. And you know, when I was growing up, basketball was played differently. And some of you guys my age, I mean, they did have the ball, and they used the square hoop and on a crate and all that stuff. And no, I'm talking, we had regular basketball, you know. But anyway, but basketball is back to team sport. Now, it's almost as if I've got to, when I get the ball, I've got to break your ankle. You know, I got to show you up. I got to make a move that's going to make you look silly so I would look good. And then when that happens, the next guy that he gets the ball, he want to make you look bad, and there's no more team playing. It's all about me. And when it comes to living for the Lord, you put God first, and you humble yourself before Him and do what's right. Blessed are those who keep justice, and he who walks in righteousness calls the time, all the time. Oh, I wish he who ever wrote that up, I wouldn't have put all the time. I wish he just said when I want to. You know what I'm saying? Wouldn't it be better, he who walks in righteousness, when he wants to? Wouldn't it have been a lot funner? It's hard to keep God's ways. And if anybody says it's easy, they're lying. That's all I can say. But I'm going to tell you what now, doing the best you can, because we all make mistakes, but doing the best we can is the greatest reward you'll ever have. It's the greatest reward. You know, I mess up all the time. But you know what, though? I love the Lord, and I want to do the best. And what I try to do is learn from my mistakes. You know, if I put my hand on the stove and it's on, I'm not going to do it a second time. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's only one time. And when I sin against God, it bothers me. And I know when I sin, it bothers me. And you know, sometimes we sin against God and we're like, it's okay, I got my fire insurance. It's okay, I live. God's a forgiving God anyway. He's going to forgive. It don't matter what I do in life. He's already forgiven me. So it don't matter. I can live the way I want to live. Well, see, that's the furthest from the truth. And that, as one old-timey preacher says, that come from hell. Because that's the devil putting the wool over your eyes, so to speak, to say, hey, go live the way you want to live because you're saved. Once you're saved, you're always, don't worry about it. But that is not what he says. He says, keep my word. Walk in my righteousness to live for me. And when I look at that, I think that's some serious. Now, you know why I think that's seriousness? Because that's what put Jesus on the cross, is our sin. Oh, I went too far. This thing's a delay, and it's got a laser pointer, so I'm going to start pointing on y'all. If y'all get the light on your forehead, you know you're asleep. Or if the person beside you sees the light on your forehead. He says in verse 33, heed instruction to be wise and do not neglect it. You know that word heed means, hey, it's a warning. You ever said to the kid, heed my word? You know, your tone of voice. See, when I'm reading something, you can't put the tone of voice in there. I mean, like when Job was going through all he went through, when they knocked on the door and you're reading it in monotone, and it says that you've lost your kids and you've lost your farm or your wealth and you've lost all this stuff you had, and you're reading it and you're like, okay, but if you put it in his wordage, he put his words in feelings, you know what this guy was going through. And when we can't read Solomon's tone of voice here, all we can read is heed instruction. But that word heed means stop and listen to this. Take heed, stop. This is important for us to understand who God is. It's important to understand how God wants us to live. It is important to understand that God is God and He does not tolerate ungodliness. And so he says, heed my instruction and be wise, and do not neglect it. Heed my instructions. And so he's getting his instructions from David and from all the scriptures that's up. He's getting his instructions from God. David got it from God. David, and so all passed down and all that. And so here he's saying, heed my instructions. Do you know that if a father or a mother is the mother or father they should be, they will never steer their child in a bad direction? How many of you all ever told your kids, hey, go play in the street? Well, I do that to my wife, but we won't talk about that. No, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, you all ever, or hey, when you get old enough, quit school and live under a bridge. Nobody's going to do that. What are you going to do? You're going to give them the best wisdom that you have. You're going to give them the best teaching. And you'll do your very best to provide for them to have the life that you desire for them to have an opportunity to have, right? Kids who always, you don't ever buy me anything after they got a room full of stuff, don't understand the sacrifices that parents make. We all make. We do. There are things that I wanted, and I'm like, well, I can't have that. I've got to, pay this bill for that. I got to, when your kids grow up, they grow fast. You buy shoes before you get them out of the box, they're already too small. Especially if they go through that growing stage. And then you're like, well, I'd like to have me a new pair of boots, but I guess my daughter needs them more. You know what I'm saying? That's our mentality. Why? We want the best for them. Now, I'm not saying we spoil it. We want the best for them. What do you think God does for us? Do you think God is up there saying, I want you to fail? He has never said that. He wants everybody to succeed. He wants everybody to have that spirit-filled life. I'll talk about it a little bit. He wants everybody to have a life that is abundant, spirit-filled life. He wants us all to reach our potential. And he also says that none should perish, but all come to repentance. I was talking to my older brother on the phone the other day. I don't talk to him very often on the phone. We text some, but not a lot. We've never been real close, but there's nothing wrong between us. We're just not real close. Now, my younger brother and I, we text every day. But Dean has his family and everything and all that. But we just never really, even growing up as kids, he never had anything to do with us much. But anyway, my mom called me and told me that his wife, or my sister-in-law, has breast cancer. And so I hung up and I turned around and called him and talked to him. And we got off on talking about the Bible, which is a good thing. He's an elder in his church, and he's over there all the time and everything. And he said to me, the bottom line to it is, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul? And I'm like, that's Dean, that's a powerful verse in the Scripture, in the Bible, because what does it profit a man to gain everything and lose its own soul? Now, I cannot say that I cannot judge anybody's salvation. I will never judge anybody's salvation. But you think about it. What was that dude that Bezos, whatever his name is, Bezos, that got in that plane or that spaceship went, shot up and they come right back down like a firecracker, like one of those firework things. He shot up. I've been in space. He come back down. I'm like, all that millions of dollars for what? What was he in space? 10, 12 seconds? Whee! You could have gone down to Myrtle Beach and gotten one of those spring things and let them shoot you in the air. And you're like, yeah! You ever get on YouTube and watch those? I love it when they pass out. You know what I'm saying? I love it. You won't see me on it. There ain't enough money here to do it. But what I'm saying is that I have no idea what I'm saying is that he's worth just a little bit of more money than us. Just a little bit. Now, like I said, I cannot judge his salvation. But if he dies without Christ, did he waste his life? Do you think about it? Did he waste his life? Because, you're only here, the Bible talks about a season. You think about it, you're only here, 70, 80 years. Depends on how long you make it. But eternity never ends. Yogi Berra said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. So it depends on what you do on this side and where you're going to be on the other side, right? And it's because when you get on the other side, you can't make a U-turn. And so when you're on this side and you gain the whole world, you got more money. You got more money and you know what to do with. And, all those guys, again, I'm not judging salvation, but if they die without Christ, they're going to spend eternity separated from God in a place called hell. And you know how much money they're taking with them? The same amount I've got in my savings account. None. All right? But you know what I'm saying? He can't take it with you. There's no coffin with a trailer hitch. All right? You can't take it. I told you about the man that was about to die, and he took all his worldly things and had it in gold blocks. And when he died, he put all these gold in his coffin so that he could take his gold, his worth, to go. And when he got to heaven, he had all this gold there with him. And he stood up and he said, I've got all this gold. And of course, if you know anything about the revelation in heaven, Peter said, it's a joke, Peter said, that's asphalt up here. The streets of gold. The greatest commodity is gold here. You got to have gold. Well, it ain't no good up there. You see what I'm saying? Put it in perspective. And so blessed is he who hears, reads, and those who hear the words of prophecy and keep things which are written in it, for time is near. I look at the be wise. Wisdom says if time is near, when's God coming back? I've told y'all before last week, nobody knows. But if he came back right now, would our house be in order? What would be in our lives that maybe we ought not be there? You see what I'm saying? And so when he's saying time is near, in the New Testament it talks the day is at hand and everything. And so I look at it and I'm thinking, well, he can come back at any time. And Jesus could come back at any time. And I had my pastor back home said this. He said, Lester McKenna is his name. He's from Canada and everything. He said, imagine if Jesus came back at 11 o'clock, because it's when we had church, on Sunday morning, and all those who laid in bed was caught not worshiping him. Now, I'm not saying they're kicked out of heaven. You see what I'm saying? I told you about the pop-ins. Somebody pops in your house. And what he was getting at is that Jesus can come back any time. We need to be worshiping him as often as we can. That's what he's talking about. And so you want to take his word and apply it to your life. The book is more than just thou shalt and thou shalt not. It's talking about living a life, of like I said earlier, humility, a desire to walk daily with him. And I've told you all this several times, but I love to watch couples who have been married for a long time walk holding hands. And when they're out walking, and when I see that, you sit and thinking, that's awesome. That long, and they're still love each other so much that they want to hold hands. Of course, again, I'm reading it. It could be that the wife is telling him what to do and leading him around. You know what I'm saying? Amen, John? And no amen on that. Susan's in here.
He's holding her up.
That's why he's holding her up. Yeah, he's holding her back, right? But anyway, God's desire for all of us is that he walks with us. Now, let's twist that around, because the truth is, he is walking with us. It's whether we're walking with Him. Are we walking with God? Are we walking with Him daily, part-time, this and that? Or are we sold out to Him? My desire is I want to live for the Lord Jesus Christ. And I want to do whatever I can to please Him. And sometimes doing what you can for Him may be that you're not doing what you want to do. Sometimes your plans change. The Bible says that a man plans his life, or a woman plans his life, but God directs his path. And so I have plans. This is what I'm going to do today. And I say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do, and everything. But that may be what God wants, so God will direct it to what He wants. But everything that God directs us to is towards Him and His will and what He wants from us. Personally, I love that. I love that Jesus loves me so much that He wants to walk with me. I love it so much that He loves me so much that His desire is that to use me. He wants to use me. Who am I? You know, you think about it. I tell people outside of this church, maybe 10 people know me in Sanford. Who am I? People in Tennessee, when I go to Tennessee, I tell Mom, I'm coming in the back door. Which means I'm coming in to see you. I'll go down when my dad was alive. I'll go to see my dad. I'll go see family. But I ain't going to see anybody else. Because I'm not going to spend my time up there in my car going other places. I want to focus on my family. So they probably long forgot about me. You know, when I got my 10-year class reunion, not now. I mean, I've been out of school a little longer 10 years, high school a little longer 10 years. It did take me a long time. I mean, you know, they socially promoted me enough to where they finally got tired of me being there so long. But what I'm getting at is that my 10-year class reunion, they called me. Are you coming to the 10-year class reunion? No. Why not? Well, I didn't want to be around you 10 years ago. What makes you think anything changed, you know? Well, my 20-year came. I got a letter. Let them know. Well, I didn't let them know. Well, my 30-year came and my 40-year came and I ain't heard from them. Of course, they don't know where I live and everything. But you know what I'm saying. They probably forgot is he still alive? I don't know. I ain't heard anything from him. I want them to think I was the only one holy enough to get to heaven when the rapture came and all of them's having to be left behind. That's what I want them to think. But anyway, who are we anyway? Well, to this world, they'll never write a book about me. I can't even get the Sanford Herald. My daughter's been in it 3 times. I guess the only time I'll be in it is in the obituaries, I guess. I don't know. Because I can't make the pinnacle of Lee County, and that's getting in the Sanford Herald. You know what I'm saying? You get your picture in Sanford Herald, you're on top of the world. But I can't get in the Sanford Herald. And like I said, my daughter been it 3 times. And of course, here again, you know, I had to go bail her out on 2 of them, but no, I'm joking. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that to that. But you know what? To God, you are everything.
That's right.
To God, you're everything. That when you see for God so, as they sang this morning, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. You know, we're part of that world. He gave, Jesus came and died for mankind. Break that down and take it personal. He died for me. And you say that about yourself. There's no song out there. There's a Christian song out that says, when He was on the cross, I was on His mind. You see, He loves us. And two, He has a desire through the Holy Spirit to walk with us, to point us in the right way. Isn't that wonderful to me? All right, I think I got off track a little bit. But He says, don't neglect this thing. I put a quote up there from my grandmother, by the way. That last one, she used to say, Stevie, shut up. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. She said it to me all the time. Why? Wonder why. I never did understand that. Oh, I'm running out of time. Time flies when you're having fun. You know what? For he who finds me finds life and obtains favor. See, that's what I was talking about earlier. Is blessed is he who watches and waits on God. You watch and you wait on Him. And so I want to encourage you that if you haven't found life in Christ, then my suggestion is, or my encouragement is, why not? Why would you not want to have a relationship with Jesus? You know, and you look at it and you say, well, I'll do it when I'm older. And then you're taking a chance. You don't know what day is your last day. But you see, a relationship with Jesus is the most important decision you'll ever make. Ecclesiastes 7:26 says, he who pleases God shall escape her, meaning wickedness. And why? Because you cannot please God and follow wickedness. And the opposite is, if you follow wickedness, you can't please God. See, so whatever I do in life here, if it's pleasing God, then that's not an issue. You ever watch going down an interstate and you see a state trooper or whoever controls the interstate highway patrol, and you see them sitting up there? Watch those in front of you hit their brakes. What does that tell you? They speeding. I'm doing 85 in a 70. You see, and the front end comes out, and everybody goes through the dashboard. And you got window fronts on your front, like, because they don't want a ticket. Why? They don't want a ticket. They don't want. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. I'm not saying this because I drive fast. Anyway, I drive 5 miles over the speed limit. I feel like this: 5 miles is a transgression. 6 miles is a sin, all right? So I'm transgressing, but I'm not sinning, all right? Anyway, Ryan's over there like, That's the gospel according to Steve. It's not in there. It's in. Anyway, get back to this. I'm in so much trouble today. But nevertheless, we stretch the law and everything, and then we don't want to get caught. And that's how we are with God. I don't want to get, but I'll dabble in this, dabble in this, dabble in this. I've said this to our youth, not our youth, but when I was a youth pastor. No child, when they're growing up in elementary school, raised their hand when it was asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? No child said, I want to be a drug addict. No child said, I want to live homeless life. No child said this. No child said, I want to be an alcoholic. No child said this. I want to be a murderer. No child said this. Well, what happened to them? You see, they got off base. They got away from it. You see, when you're a Christian, I'll say, how many of you all want to sin today? Nobody's hand will go up. How many of you all will sin today? Still nobody's hand goes up. But anyway, but what I'm getting at is that we all will sin at one time today. And we'll make a mistake. And when we do, and that's what he's saying here about the other part of it. I'm running out of time. I got to get more time. Somebody set that clock back 15 minutes. If this thing don't quit working, don't start working. But sin is miss the mark. That's what that hada means. It means in Hebrew, it misses the mark. How many of y'all hunt? All right, with a bow. With a bow and arrow or a gun. If you are out practicing and you got the bullseye, you got that little, I think it's yellow maybe, a little yellow, and you got the circle. If you shoot an arrow and it doesn't hit right in the middle of that, that's not a bullseye. You missed the mark. For me, it's like a 3-inch putt. I will always miss the hole. Jimmy knows that. He's played golf with me. And so whenever if you don't hit the perfect mark, it don't count. And when Jesus talks about sin, perfection is right dead center. Anything off of dead center in the eyes of God is sin. It's not perfect. So guess what? We've all sinned. We've all sinned. And he's talking here in this last verse, and I'm moving on, I promise. He who sins against me injures himself. Injures himself. Do you know sin? I got up here about in James, it says that when it's conceived, it gives sin, and when the sin is accomplished, it brings forth death. Now, there's two deaths. There's a spiritual death, and of course, Adam and Eve. You all know Adam and Eve was not supposed to die. It wasn't until sin came in the garden that death came to them, and so that's what caused them to die. Was that sin. So we're all going physical, but we all sin that way. Now, sometimes our sin has consequences. If we do something wrong, it may hurt us physically too. But it will definitely kill us spiritually. Now, well, I'm saved. I'm saved. How is it going to kill? Well, what it doesn't take away your salvation, but it will take away your fellowship. Okay, guys. When you go in, and I'm done off this, okay? I promise I'll finish it. Guys, when you all are at home with your wife, and they ask you a crazy question, how do you answer it? How you answer it depends on where you'll sleep that night. You know that, don't you? I'll give you an example. Little Christina wanted a mirror for her door. She wanted it full length so she can look at how good she looks when she goes out. Everything had to be on point. Bleak, point, what is it now young people call it? Whatever it is, it had to be perfect. So she stands there, and then she selfies and sends it out on Snapchat. All right. Well, we went out and got a mirror. I come walking in with it under my arm, down the living room. Wife was sitting here. I come walking in it, down the mirror, little Christian behind me, we're going to put it up. My wife asked, "Did you buy a mirror?" I said, "No," and I kept on walking. That was definitely the couch answer. Okay? That got me on the couch. And so guys, we have choices to make. Sometimes you have to, well, you don't know how to act. We don't know what to say. You're like, that one? No, I tried. But sin separates us from God, and what I was talking about is when our spouse gets mad at us, we are separated in our fellowship, but we are not separated by marriage. Does that make sense? See, if my wife's mad at me, because I can't be mad at her. Y'all know her. I can't be mad at her. Anyway, when she's mad at me, it's not because I hope these walls ain't too thin. See, over at the other place, he's downstairs, and now she's in there. Chris, look in there and see if her face is red. Anyway, but see, when we have a little like this, then we're not in together. Our fellowship is like this, but our marriage is intact. Y'all have had this. Don't y'all look at me like, what preacher's one crazy dude up there? What's he doing up there? He needs to be in a funny farm. But, so what I'm getting at in it all is this. God, when you get saved, you're saved by the grace of God. But it depends on you, on where you are in His fellowship. Are you here with God, or are you here with God? And God says He doesn't move. I am God. I don't move. He's immovable. I don't change. He's unchangeable. So God's standing right here. It's up to us. And so that's what he's saying here about this. Is don't sin. And it says those who do, who love to do the wrong, well, let me get it right. But he who hates me, talking about him, the word, and everything, God loves death. Now, I don't know about that. That is powerful because of love and hate. No, but we have choices to make. Either we're going to follow God or we're not. That's it. We're either going to sell ourselves out or we're not. We're either going to give it all or give nothing. Because there's no fence riding in the eyes of God. That's the decision that we all have to make. And that is applying knowledge to wisdom. Taking knowledge and applying it equals wisdom. I know what God wants from me. When I apply it, I become wise. If I don't apply it, then He calls us fools. And so, my thing is this. We all have those choices. And you have to make your choice. Now, I'm not talking about for salvation. Yes, you have to make your choice for salvation. But you have to make your choice of saying, I am going to follow God. If it means being alone in school, if it means being alone at work, if it means losing my friends, if it means that, it's okay. I'm going to follow God. I want to follow Him. Stand up for the Lord and follow Him. That's His desire. That's the wisdom that He wants us to have. Let's pray. Father, we thank You